It's such a joy to be here with all of you today. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I have to say, it's not necessarily my best moment in time, but to be here with all of you is such a joy. And it's the beginning of a 3-year partnership between us and you all within this community, Villanova University, the Augustinian Secretariat, the Jesuit Refugee Services, the Scalabrini Institute, the Center for Migration Studies, the U.S. Catholic bishops, and all of you are partners who are here today to make this moment possible. So, I mean, that is a pretty good day, let's admit it. When I look around this room, I see more than a conference. I really see a movement. I see scholars and students, administrators, members of civil society, and most importantly, I see migrants and refugees, people who've gathered together, people who share a common purpose, who are united across borders, who are united by disciplines, by the conviction that migration should not only be better understood, but better supported. And how fitting it is that Villanova University is hosting this event. Of course, the very university where Pope Leo XIV once studied. Do we have wildcats in the room? All right, okay. So I have to say, I do feel a little bit outnumbered, not just because I'm the other American pope, but I studied at Haverford College. So for those of you who know, it is just 10 minutes down the road from Villanova. And while I'm always going to be loyal to my alma mater, let's be honest, the black squirrels, they're no match for the Villanova Wildcats. But from squirrels to wildcats, and yes, even popes, the seeds planted in our communities today can grow into the leadership that shapes the world tomorrow. This year, the Catholic Church marks a jubilee. It's a holy year. The motto is simple, but it's powerful. Pilgrims of hope. And I know that in every jubilee, the faithful are invited to renewal, to pilgrimage, to reconciliation, to works of mercy, and this jubilee is no exception. And at its heart is the profound recognition that we are all pilgrims. We are all journeying towards something greater than ourselves. We are all migrants. For many of the migrants and the refugees I meet, that pilgrimage is not metaphorical, it's not spiritual, it's literal. It's the long walk of freedom, the long walk from homes, people who are forced by war, by violence, by poverty, by the impact of climate disasters. It's crowded boat crossings. It's the uncertain wait in a camp or a hopeful step into a new classroom, a new workplace, or a new community. Yesterday, I had the chance to visit Lampedusa. And if you know Lampedusa, you know that it is a small island just off the coast of Sicily, which is frankly closer to North Africa than it is to Europe. But it's become the frontline landing point for the migration reality today. And I witnessed what so many have come to know. Migrants who are arriving on rickety, unsafe boats, rescued from sea by the Italian Coast Guard, they came ashore barefoot, dripping wet, cold, and stripped down to their most vulnerable human state. And as Pope Leo reminds us, migrants and refugees may arrive with nothing more than the clothes on their backs. And I saw that, literally, the people I saw coming off the boats, and we saw several rescues. One boat had 86 migrants, several women, several children, all coming the same way, nothing but their clothes, bare feet, cold and wet. But they all carried within them something that is greater. They all carried with them hope. And because migration, especially migration when we're talking about migrants coming across the sea in these precarious circumstances, it's a search for a better life. That link between migration and hope, it's intrinsic. Pope Leo calls on us to welcome migrants not as a burden, but as a blessing, an opportunity for growth, for renewal, and enrichment of our communities. And at IOM, I have the privilege of seeing this truth every single day. Many of our colleagues are migrants themselves. In fact, yesterday when I was in Lampedusa, I met one of them, a young man who's called Lamine Soli. Lamine left home. He left Gambia when he was 13 years old. It took him 3 years going across West Africa, through Niger, through Libya, where he was subjected to some of the most inhumane treatment, where he witnessed women being raped and migrants being discarded off the backs of trucks when they no longer had the strength to hold on. When people were discarded as property or commodities. And when he arrived on the Italian shores at the age of 16, barefoot, after his own journey across the sea, he came in with a sense of purpose, with a sense impossibly that he could actually make a life for himself, despite all that he had seen and all that he had done. And today, he's a citizen of Italy. And importantly, he works for IOM. He works as a cultural mediator, which means that every single day, he goes out on these rescue boats, standing alongside the Coast Guard. And as the rescue boats approach migrants, often 100 stacked into a small wooden boat, he speaks to them in their language. And he reassures them that we're here to help you, and we're here to bring you to safety. He's doing work that is central to what the Pope calls us all to do, to reach out to people in their moment of need, in their moment of distress, in their moment of terror, and to help them to feel comforted, to feel understood, and to feel welcomed, even in that most vulnerable state. I want to read to you some of what he wrote. He's actually written a novel, which I read on my way back from Lampedusa yesterday. And he wrote, in Libya, I saw people change because of war. Kind people became aggressive. Strong people broke down and cried. People were killed not because they did something wrong, but simply because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. War doesn't care who you are. It just takes your peace, your hope, sometimes even your future. So I began to understand freedom is not just about movement, it's about dignity. Freedom is the ability to live without fear. Freedom is when your mother can sleep in peace. Freedom is walking in the street and knowing that nobody is hunting you. Real freedom starts inside, when you refuse to become like those who have hurt you. That's what I call freedom. My story is not just mine, it's the voice of many who never got a chance to tell theirs. His words remind us that migration is not just about movement, it's about dignity. It's about the search for freedom, and it's about this enduring, impossible human hope that even when you have crossed the sea barefoot, even when you've been stripped of your dignity, of your humanity, even when you're terrified, that life can be better and communities can be enriched when they welcome the stranger as a neighbor. That's why this conversation, your role, this conference here is so critical. Because migration is not only lived in border crossings or in refugee camps, it's shaped in classrooms and research labs and community programs. And universities matter because they shape how migration is understood. Through your research, you provide the evidence that will help governments design smarter, more humane policies. For example, IOM's own World Migration Report, which is a reference point for policymakers all around the world, it's only possible because of the deep collaboration with many academics, like so many of you here in the room. Universities matter because they shape how migration is taught. When students engage with migration, not as an abstract concept, but as part of economics, medicine, theology, or engineering, they begin to see how migration is interwoven into every aspect of life. And when stories like Lamin's are brought into the classroom, that's when perspectives change. Students leave not just with knowledge, but with empathy and with curiosity. And universities matter because they shape how migration is lived in local communities. When you open a door for a refugee or a migrant student, when you provide a language course, when you mentor, when you provide legal aid, you don't just change that individual life, you change societies. That's why IOM is here today, because our mission to make migration safe, orderly and dignified, cannot be achieved without all of you. And yet, we know the challenges are enormous. Access to higher education for migrants and refugees is far too low. The numbers of refugees who have access to universities is as low as 7%. But that is not just a loss for the migrant or the refugee, that's a loss for all of us. That means millions of young, bright, talented, motivated people are being denied the chance to become tomorrow's doctors and engineers, teachers, or entrepreneurs. The barriers are systemic: legal status, financial aid, language, discrimination. And for many irregular migrants, higher education is out of reach before it even begins. Now, no single actor can address all of these challenges alone, not IOM, no matter how good we are, not universities, no matter how committed you are, not governments. But that's why we are embracing a whole of society approach. Migration is a shared responsibility, and the solutions will be a shared solution. So what does it look like if we work together? Imagine a mentorship initiative where a local student accompanies a migrant classmate through the university journey, not just as study partners, but as friends. Imagine professors who integrate the testimonies from migrants into their classroom, not just as case studies, but as living voices who challenge and enrich our understanding. Imagine research collaboration that turns IOM's presence in more than 170 countries around the world into a living laboratory for knowledge, shaping policy, and practice in real time. These are not far-fetched dreams. They're within reach. We see it play out every single day around the world, and we can make them global if we commit to making them real. And that's where you come in. So as Villanova launches this 3-year project, you'll be developing action plans around 4 pillars: research, teaching, advocacy, and service. On research, work with us. Bring research and practice so that what we learn in the field informs your studies. And what you discover in your studies improves the work we can do in the field. On teaching, bring migration into every discipline. Migration touches economics, medicine, law, engineering, theology, foreign policy, development policy. Make it part of the story in every field. On advocacy, use your voices and use them boldly. We need it. Push for policies that expand educational pathways for migrants and refugee students, that recognize the qualifications that migrants bring, that opens doors rather than closes them, and help change the public conversation from migrants as burdens to migrants as contributors. On service, this is where you can really get creative. Partner with local organizations that support migrants, offer internships, volunteering, community programs. Let's be ambitious. Let's build a global network of universities that offer scholarships and pathways for migrants, not as charity, but as an investment in human potential for our shared future. So I'm going to close with an invitation. IOM will bring to the table our global reach, our access to data, and our partnerships working in more than 170 countries all around the world. You bring the passion, the creativity, the intellectual rigor, and the authority as academics. Let's bring these together. Let's build a common home where migration is not managed away, but stewarded wisely, compassionately, and justly. As Pope Leo reminds us, migrants are not only people in need of welcoming, they are missionaries of hope. They carry gifts. They carry gifts. They carry gifts for us that can renew our communities and even renew our faith. Our task is not just to study migrants and study migration. Our task is to walk with them, to learn from them, and to allow their presence and their contribution to transform us. This is the work of this Jubilee year. That's the work of this project. And that is the work that I believe that we can do together. Thank you very much.